flow.
Yeah, well, thank you, you guys for coming today. Right? Yeah. So no, we appreciate your time, and obviously I know we've gotten a lot of traction here for these COMPSTAT meetings online. I think our last one had thousands of views, so it went really well, and we've got a lot of feedback. So we appreciate you guys showing up here, and the people at home that'll be watching. So today we're gonna go through some COMPSTAT presentations here to talk about some of our updates. Again, with some of the crime that's been going on in our city. We also had a couple of requests from residents that requested some information on who's been involved in some of the crimes and where some of the people are coming from that are committing some of these crimes in our city. So we do have that information today, and that's what we're going to try and do going forward. Is people may ask questions or send emails and ask for certain information, and we're going to try and present the data the best way we can, so we can get the information out to everybody. But before we get started, I know Mayor Bazzi's here, and we always like to give him an opportunity to speak before we get the presentation going.
Thank you, Director Swope. Again, a lot of residents, they've been reaching out. I know we're addressing a lot of the seniors that watch cable and YouTube. And one of the things, I don't want to keep repeating some of the stuff that we talk about, but I'm gonna say, like, our city attorney, Mr. Farina, we had in the past, there was a lot of disconnects that we had in the city. And one of the things, obviously, we know, we'll keep talking a little bit about this here, for every meeting that we have, so residents can, get an idea, like, what's, why we did what we did. When I brought in, Chief Hart, before Chief Hart, we had Commissioner Thomas, God rest his soul, he needed help. Obviously brought, Chief Hart, to help us clean up the police station with some of the issues we had with this department, and some of the residents, some of the complaints we were getting, there was no community policing. So, and I know Chief Hart, when we talked to Chief Hart in the beginning, before we enticed them or, to come to Dearborn Heights, that's some of that buzzword, key things that he touched base on is community policing. Try to get engaged with the community. And I was so impressed with him. The first day on the job, he was at the city hall. He was driving, and he actually stopped there. There was some residents having picnic in their backyard, and he actually stopped there just to say hello and just like, hey, how you doing? My name is Chief Hart, blah blah blah. And this is something that's like really good. And I tell you, I've been talking to a lot of residents. They've seen a lot of great changes that the leadership in the police department, is doing here. With the Chief Hart as a chief, Director Swope, and Director Vanderpauw. So there's a lot of changes that, a lot of transition with the police department. And to actually put more things into it, something much better, we brought Dr. Farina, our city attorney. He came in and he was very ambitious, something we've never had before. We lacked a lot of stuff that we needed in the city, with prosecution, with a lot of stuff with the old city attorney that Ms. Dr. Farina brought to the city, with a lot of great changes, with youth, with programs that they're going to be talking about here. But I'm really happy. A lot of residents that I've been talking to, and we're exposed to a lot of residents, not just a few that show up, to some meetings. But it's, I talk to hundreds of residents in like I said, in events that we go to, and a lot of great positive feedbacks. They're talking about the police department, and a lot of people are watching these shows about crime stats, the car thefts and things like that. So I'm really impressed. I'm happy to be. You guys are on the city team, and you guys are doing everything, just to make sure, Dearborn Heights. And like I said, I tasked the chief on day one. He says, "What do you want?" I said, "I want a world-class police department. I want a police department that actually everybody can be proud of. And I want people to actually say, I want to work for Dearborn Heights Police Department. I want to be able to retire from Dearborn Heights Police Department. And I want to live in the city of Dearborn Heights because of our police, police presence, and that's exactly what you guys are doing. And I appreciate you guys' leadership, and I appreciate our city attorney he's going to be talking about some of the stuff. We had several meetings today about some of the stuff that you guys are doing with the school districts and with our youth. So thank you so much, and I'm really grateful, and I'm proud to have you guys on the city team. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so what I'm going to talk about, you're going to see some of the things that you've seen before, because the whole purpose of COMPSTAT is how is our police department progressing? How are we reacting to crime, right? How are we looking at trends and data and responding to it, right? And what our goal is to try and show a reduction in crime across the board, right? We want our enforcement efforts to go up. We want crime to go down in our neighborhoods. So what we're going to do is we're not going to go through some of these slides in great detail, but we do want to report back on how these crimes are reducing their numbers in our city. So we'll get going. Today we're going to talk about once again some car thefts, some larcenies, drunk driving arrests, weapons offenses, crashes, calls for service, and then we also added a section on here called Chief's Corner. So Chief Hart will be able to get up and update our residents on some things here. So let's talk about our UTAs. So once again, our UTAs, which is a stolen vehicle, they're down in our city quite a bit, right? Year to date, we're at 68 compared to last year. Year to date, 101. So we're down 32%. So that's a good thing, right? Here's a map of where the auto thefts took place in 23 and 24. Obviously, this is 23 and this is 24. You see the blue dots are each incident, and 23 looks a lot better than 24. We want to continue to reduce these numbers, but we're heading in the right direction. Right, we're gonna, data-driven policing. Obviously, is we see this group of auto thefts. We then take officers and we direct them to enforce in this area, so it becomes an area where there's no crime whatsoever. That's our goal. So,
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Just make a point. So, if you go back one, there's 105 so far, or how many have we had?
So 68.
68.
Yep.
So I don't want to lose sight that 68 community members went to get in their car to go to work or come out of a store and their car was gone. That's not lost on us. Although we're celebrating right now a significant decrease, and we should all celebrate that, right, in auto theft. And part of that is our strategy when we first brought Daniel on board last June, May, is having these data-driven decisions, because I know a lot of people want us to focus on narcotics, and narcotics have almost all but been legalized, right, for the most part, at least marijuana and some of the other paraphernalia issues. So when we looked at this data and had an opportunity to join a multi-jurisdictional task force, that was an easy decision for us because we have had so many stolen vehicles. And when I talk to my colleagues around the area or even outstate or look at national statistics, our stolen vehicle numbers throughout this country are incredible. And I know the insurance industry is kicking up a HEAT program, help eliminate auto theft, that I know the task force commander, I believe it is, goes to those meetings. So when we talk about data-driven decision, please don't, and crime going down, we're also very cognizant that 68 people had their vehicles stolen. So we're not insensitive to that. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
So we're going to talk about larceny from autos real quick. So year to date we have 44 compared to last year is 105. right? So 2023, year-to-date, 105. That was a lot, right? 44, much less. But one thing I want, residents at home and people here to understand is we only can report on the information we receive from the community. So we have to make sure that, if you know of a resident that had their car broken into, or maybe your car was broken into, we want to make sure you report that. Even if you think nothing can be done about it, we would like a report so we can have accurate numbers on where crime is, because we don't want other residents to wake up in the morning and have their car broken into and think that we're not going to do anything about it. So we really truly want our residents to report all crime to us. And if this number, unfortunately, goes up on us, well, that's okay, because we're going to respond to it. But then, we have accurate numbers. But right now, this is the most accurate we can come up with, and it's a great reduction. Our officers are out there working really, really hard to provide a reduction in crime for our residents. So here's a map. There's a lot of blue in 2023 over here on the left-hand side, right? 58% decrease in larceny from autos. You see this area, and I just want to talk about, data-driven. And as we go on, in the future at these meetings, we'll stop talking about maybe, exactly what is data-driven, but we had a huge issue right here, last year. A big issue down here in the south end of our city, southeastern portion. But enforcement, we got complaints about, prowlers, people walking around neighborhoods and stealing things in this area. So we directed enforcement there and almost cleaned this area up completely. Same thing with down here on the south end of our city. So we got the data and we responded to the location and almost eliminated crime in those areas in regards to larcenies. So drunk driving arrests and drug driving arrests, we're very proud of this stat. Year to date, we're at 116. Compared to last year, we were at 31. I mean, that's amazing. I think we have a lot of residents on our road and just people passing through our city. They're much safer now than they were this time last year. So I mean, that's a great job. 274%. Yes, sir.
I'm going to add that we've talked, Chief, about training our officers more on operating while impaired during the daytime. And of course, that translates to us prosecuting the cases. But a lot of people think they can just smoke marijuana and drive a car. And so we're having Pam, the prosecutors unit, come in and train our officers. But you'll have people using whippets, using nitrous oxide, even the cans that you spray to clean your computer. They're taking those to get high and driving the day. And to see the videos of the people completely out of it, it really makes you scared. Understand what's out there during the daytime, not just the drunk driving arrest at night.
Yeah, and the whippets are it's really scary. And I know, Angela's out there cleaning up some of the, some of the issues there on the side of the road sometimes. Guarantee she's probably seen some of those silver cylinders on the side of the road. People do them as they're driving and they throw them right out the window. So it's very alarming that's going on. So great effort by our officers to make sure that drunk drivers are taken off the street. We have a lot of traffic on our roadways. People from other cities coming through here driving intoxicated, but we also have our own residents here driving when they shouldn't be. So we're going to talk a little bit about where people come from. Where do they live? Where are the people living that are coming through our city and driving drunk? And I think it's important for us to know this stat, because we need to be able to identify where some of these offenders are coming from, so we can possibly do a campaign. Maybe if we border, let's say, Detroit, right? We know we border Detroit. So we have 26. They're our most drunk drivers so far year to date. 26 offenders from the city of Detroit. So one thing we possibly could do is have a campaign, on our border with Detroit, and maybe post some things, say, hey, you drink, you drive, you lose, that type of thing, right? Just to remind drivers that we don't want to be involved in any type of drunk driving in the city of Dearborn Heights or anywhere, for that matter. You know, and this is one of the things I talked about our residents asked us the question. They want to know where, you know, these offenders live. And it's not my job to ask, why do you want to know that, right? If you guys ask about certain things, transparency, we're going to try and find the data for you, okay? So Dearborn Heights residents, 19 offenders out of our, you know, drunk driving arrests this year. So out of 116 drunk driving arrests, 19 offenders are from Dearborn Heights, and it goes down, you know, so 17 in Inkster, 10 to Westland, 6 Dearborn, 6 Taylor, 5 in Redford, 3 Livonia. So we keep stats on a lot of things. Yes, sir.
So where's the hot spot?
So the hot spot on drug driving arrests?
Yeah.
So I mean, you took it you know, if you look at the map here, they're all mapped out. A lot of our arrests are actually on border streets, right?
Okay.
So they're spread out pretty good, right? All over the place. It looks like there's a lot of drinking and driving going on our borders. We do have a few up and down, obviously, you know, Telegraph here, but they're, you know, could be traveling through. But look at the neighborhoods down here in the south end, right? Who knows what's going on there? I know one tactic for people who drive drunk is they'll leave the bar and they'll try and drive through neighborhoods, right? So they avoid all these police officers. But if you can see, our officers are not only working very hard in the south end to stop that, right? And this is where data-driven policing is awesome. We do not want larcenies to occur here, right? But since our officers are in the neighborhoods, look what happened. We're making drug driving arrests in the neighborhoods, right? So we reduce the larcenies, right? We have officers there trying to reduce larcenies, but we're picking off people who are intoxicated, right? So that's great. That's a great byproduct of people reporting crime and us responding to it, and we are doing a great job reducing crime and also arresting people who are endangering our citizens. So weapons and drug arrests. You know, pretty soon it looks like this whole thing's going to be red. But this is, as I said before, this is a good thing for us. This means that our police department, our police officers are working very hard at being proactive and trying to make their residents safe. So weapons arrests, you know, we're up 100% year to date, right? So what do we have here, Daniel? So 30 weapons arrests as of 2024, or April 24th, 2024, compared to 15 in 2023. And drug arrests, we have 58 compared to 26 in 2023. Drugs didn't just show up this year, right? We're enforcing, we're working harder, making more positive and proactive contacts in the community, which leads to these arrests. Yes, Vince?
You say your weapons arrests are up 100%, but what's the percentage of those legal weapons or illegal weapons?
They're all illegal.
Yeah. So this weapons arrest, it would be an arrest where someone should not be in possession of a firearm while they're traveling in their car, which is these are CCW arrests. So improper transport is a misdemeanor. These are like the guy has the gun underneath his seat, maybe on his person, hidden somewhere in a backpack. These weapons are taken from people who most likely have them because they're going to do something bad with them. These aren't just people driving down the street with a gun improperly, maybe in the glove box, and it shouldn't be, right? These people are creating issues for our city. So, and some guns are stolen, right? Guns are stolen. Sometimes serial numbers are filed off, and people are charged appropriately when that's the case. But our officers are getting these off the street. That's a big deal, to us. And everything it's everywhere, right? It's everywhere. So that means our officers, there's really everywhere. We see drug arrests, gun arrests, consistent throughout the city. So that means our officers are out there, patrolling in all areas of the city. So here we talked about some juvenile arrests. So I know that Corporation Council here came up with a program where we're going to have, and I'll let him speak on that in a few. But this is the reason why it's important for us to have a program which helps our juveniles along, the right path, right? So some of our crimes aren't just adults, obviously. Kids, they do things they shouldn't be doing, right? And our officers, obviously, are out there. We don't care how old people are. We just handle things when we have to. So in 2024, there's been 283 arrests or detainments of juveniles in the city of Dearborn Heights. I'm sorry, 26 of the 283 arrests, that's a lot. Those are actually detainments, not just like someone who's out maybe past curfew where we don't arrest them. Those are actually juveniles in jail, right, in custody, right? And that's scary, right? 26 in 4 months, it's a lot, right? It's telling that we need a program like this that Corporation Council has developed based on that number right there. You want to speak about that
Yes.
now?
Thank you, Chief. Chief Sewell.
But just talking real quick, when we talk about 283 arrests, physical, in custody arrests made this year for in total. But if we were to talk about tickets for like misdemeanors where we didn't arrest the juvenile, that 26 would probably be triple. You know what I mean? So we arrested the 26, but we probably issued tickets to many more, right? So it's important that we divert these kids somewhere to where they have a chance at being successful.
Thank you, Director Swoop. I think what we'd like to do is, and these numbers don't reflect what's going on in the schools themselves. For vaping, truancy, fighting, things that don't get downtown that the schools are trying to handle. The schools are reaching out to us and saying, look, can you hold these kids accountable, hold the parents accountable, get some diversion programs. So what we've looked at is, in addition to working with like Growth Works, but doing other programs really to increase education, increase accountability. The schools are working on behavior modification, mediation efforts, but getting them to the school, we have a judge really holding them accountable. If they don't follow the rules, then they go downtown. So it's something we're taking seriously. We're going to have more information for you as we look at the schools, not just one school, but all the schools throughout Dearborn Heights. Again, we do include Inkster schools in some of our districts that, since they don't have their own district. But I think once we show the kids that we're not just in for jail or high fines, but we really care about you. We want to see programs that turn you around. So thank you.
And just real quick to point out some of the offenses. So like license and registration arrests, that sounds like it's minor, but it's really not, because these are juveniles who are out there driving the cars in our city, who shouldn't be, and they're creating some of the traffic issues that we're seeing out there, right? Some of the speeding up and down the roadways. So, but there's also, aggravated and felonious assault, by juveniles, right? Resisting police officers. So there's some major things that our juveniles are getting involved in, and we have to make sure that that we can help them stay away from this type of behavior. All right, so auto crashes. So what we did the top 5 crash intersections for the city, and of course we know that Ford and Beach Daily sees a lot of traffic, and that is that's our number one. At Ford and John Daly. So Ford Road, we know there's a traffic problem, and we have to try and reduce that. Telegraph and Joy is another busy busy intersection. A lot of people use Joy Road to get from city to city. Ford and Gully, and Ford and Outer Drive. So pretty much, if the word Ford is in it, it's probably a problem for traffic. All right, and we know this, and we're doing our best to try and rectify and get some of that driving, those poor driving behaviors under control. So, last year there was 472 crashes. This year there's 474. So, you know, we're closing the gap a little bit. I think last month there might have been a differential of 7, so a little bit better. But those numbers normally stay consistent on the actual total numbers of crashes. All right, Chief.
Quick question, in regards to accidents, some of the things that we're looking into is what type of crash is it, right? Are a lot of these rear end, are they, you know, head-on left turn, head-on right turn, side swipes? And what that will do for us and then the traffic data with the TIA, the Transportation Improvement Association, is to look at, is that engineering piece. We will use that data to leverage, you know, changes for a left turn arrow or whatever it may be. Maybe some dividers down Ford Road. I know the city of Canton or Canton Township is putting in some dividers. Are there things that we can change up, right? So we're gonna do a deep dive into that. How much of an impact can we have as our police officers have as they're out on the beat when a lot of our accidents are rear ends, right? Or driving too fast for conditions, you know, and the phones. And I believe, is it next week? You kind of updated me that we will be doing trying to pick up the microphone there, pick up a distracted driving campaign.
Yes. Yep. Over the next week, we're going to have a distracted driving campaign, looking for the people who are texting and driving and talking on a cell phone.
All the time.
Yeah.
Up and
Yeah.
down my street,
Yeah.
I just, they're like this, right in their face.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna focus on that, and it's not just for the week, but it's just the campaign that we're gonna put out is for a week, right? And we're gonna continue our enforcement, but we truly want to get some information out there to stop that type of behavior.
I got a question.
Yes,
Actually, I got a text from a resident and a business owner. Dearborn Heights resident. He's also a business owner off of Beach Daily and Fort Road. It's funny that you say that, and he texted me. He's asking, what are we doing about the dangerous intersection on Beach Daily and Fort Road? He said it's really dangerous, and a lot of people driving crazy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what you think.
And, you know, it's a focus of ours, and now as we bring Daniel on, and I'll talk about some of the operational changes that we've made here in the structure of the police department, and to refocus our officers into those top 5, top 10 intersections. But again, digging into the why. Why are we seeing those crashes here? Is it something we simply cannot control because, you know, somebody thinks the car in front of them is moving, you know, the light maybe turned green, they took their foot off the brake, so then they start to accelerate, but at the same time they're turning the radio down or they're distracted in some other manner. It's a really difficult thing to have an impact on because traffic accidents, for the most part, they might fluctuate by a little. Now, this is my 3rd community. They don't generally, unless you have a really critical, long-standing weather event, like an ice event, and things like that, where folks are getting out and causing issues. So what we're doing, Mayor, and please, hopefully, obviously the residents watching, is we're digging into that data to see where we can have the biggest impact. And I know that Roger and I have spoken before about safety campaigns and other things that we can do in partnerships that we have.
Thank you.
So that was a great question, and I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, case in point, I guess, real quick, at the Ford Road thing, we had, you know, we were driving, the chief and I were driving, and it was Ford and Gully? Ford and Gully today. We know that to be an intersection where there's some issues. And yeah, Ford and Gully, our officer was there. You know, we didn't tell him to go there, but our officer knows based on the data-driven information we've been handing out. He was there in the parking lot, just waiting for people to run that red light or turn late on that red light. So we are focusing efforts there, and not only we as the administration, but our officers understand it, and they are proactively doing it. So, you know, that was a proud moment to see him out there doing that without being told to be out there. So that's a big deal, you know, for this to be truly working.
And it's community policing. They're understanding that in their beat, there's an identified problem, right? I kind of look at Daniel. I used to fish bass tournaments with my buddy, and man, when fish finders came out, that was cool. So Daniel's kind of like the fish finder for crime and traffic issues and other things, he's doing a great job, and I'll talk a little bit about, some of those changes. So the mayor spoke, about, bringing me onto the police department, wanting a certain goal. I'm a temporary employee here. I'm here for a couple of years. I'm a transitional person, as I see myself, to kind of reset best practices, put the department, tee it up for success, okay? With the future leaders here coming from the police department. And when you do those things, there's some strife. And when you're mixing things up, there's a lot of the unknowns. There's people that question what the motivation is. My motivation is like a giraffe. You might say, wow, a giraffe. I was thinking maybe a lion or something, vicious. But when you think about a giraffe, they see, because they're the tallest mammal on Earth, right? So they see very far into the future. They have excellent eyesight. They can actually run very quickly. They're defensive of their crew and of the herd that they run with. And they don't really have a very structured hierarchy because they take turns kind of leading the pack. And they're diverse. There's several different types of giraffes. And really, when I look at what we want here is the diversity. We need to be looking down at threats or opportunities. So some of these changes that we're going to talk about today may have caused a significant amount of turbulence and strife in the community, but it's the why and what we're looking to do here and accomplish at the police department. So one of our first additions here to the police department was a FOIA coordinator. Back on May 8th, we picked up a full-time FOIA coordinator who we're almost at a year to date of records, who's handled 420 FOIAs and 247 discovery and subpoenas. So that's requests for, and also down on the bottom, you'll see that we're almost a year into a new in-car camera system and body-worn cameras. So that's an incredible amount of digital information that somebody has to go through and redact pertinent information and then fulfill those FOIAs, many times within a very short time frame. So that is a significant amount of FOIAs and discoveries for one person to handle. Now, that was previously, that position was filled by a police lieutenant. And when he retired, that presented an opportunity for us to reimagine what that position looks like. And instead of having a sworn licensed police officer doing those things, we turn it over to a competent professional who's properly trained, and we continue to provide training to. Excuse me, mechanic. We had a mechanic transfer over from the DPW to the police department. For those that have never walked around the police department or had an opportunity to take a tour, I'd be happy to set one up for you. We have a 2 vehicle maintenance bay, and you used to work here, so you know. Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful vehicle maintenance bay, right?
Yeah.
With a lift. So we kind of reimagined as staffing challenges presented itself, and they're not just here in Dearborn Heights. There's staffing issues throughout law enforcement in this country, throughout. If you don't believe me, just look on the internet, look it up, right? There's job openings, significant openings everywhere. So we had a transfer from the DPW come up. He joined us July 17th of last year. It was nice for me when I came in, was coming back to work on Monday, so I came in on Sunday. My wife drove me in, went to pick up my car, and it's dead. So when I came into the building yesterday, I said, hey Glenn, a couple days ago, my battery was dead. I don't know where we're at on oil changes and brakes. And 30 minutes later, he's like, hey, your brakes are good. A couple of your tires were overinflated. I did an oil change. Your cabin filter's good. It looks like I did an inspection of the car and it's safe. But that's not just for the chief's car. Because as I sat down and had a discussion with him, he has books, 3-ring binders on all our cars. He's keeping all of our maintenance records. He has the requests from the police officers who write down an issue with a car and how it was resolved. All those records are kept. He's very much a hands-on paper person. I wish it was digital, but this works for him. And he used to take care of police fleet in another community. So he has done some marvelous things. Now that position was previously a sworn police officer who would take cars, shuffle cars to and from dealerships, repair facilities, and so on and so forth. So that gave us an opportunity. Great young man. Nothing against that young man. But it's my job to figure out how to get more cops on the street and try to reimagine this police department and be fiscally responsible for our money, right? Your money, your tax dollars. And to us, it makes more sense to pick up civilians who can do those jobs, who we can empower and who are training. I'm not a mechanic, right? But he sure knows, and he is passionate about what he does. And our fleet has never been better. He's kicking out a lot of cars. He's doing the preventative maintenance issues. Sure, there are times, there are things that are above what we can do in this garage. There is no doubt about that, right? So those issues have to go out and be fixed by the dealership or wherever facility he has the relationships with. And of course, Daniel, I've talked about Daniel since he's here, but there's a difference between telling everybody where a crime is occurring and then having the ability, the knowledge, skills, and ability to create those temporal maps and spatial maps. Vince, your question today was where, about where something specific was happening. Well, that's a specialty where Daniel has all of the tools that he needs, the computer he needs, and the training. Daniel, you worked at the Detroit
the
Crime Intelligence Center, so he was a great addition to us to move us into the data-driven approach. You can't be in 2024 running on gut instinct all the time. Well, I think this is happening, right? We have to look at that data. So I'm very proud of the work that analyst Daniel has done here. He's been a great addition to the team, and he's also, right now through the Department of Justice, he's been granted a mentor, a crime analyst in residence program, a CAR program. So he's really taking his skills to the next level, which is really enhancing the service to our community and to our police officers. And I think this might be the last position I'd like to talk about tonight is property room and records. So in the property room, we had a full-time officer who had a couple duties. One of them was the property room. That officer was retiring. It gave us an opportunity to reimagine what those duties would look like. So we hired a part-time retired police officer who worked at an accredited agency to come in and take over our property room on a part-time basis. So that's a head count that we can deploy back to where a police officer, a licensed police officer, can do things that police officers do, right? Instead of keeping the property room. So last May, June, we had a complete reorganization of the property room, top to bottom, left to right, all the way around, cleaned up, organized, had a massive purge of property that we could destroy per law, that were no longer needed for court. So we now have, I believe, one of the sharpest property rooms of any police department around here. It's very well organized, and he's picking up some other duties as far as transporting property to keep the chain of custody as small as possible for court, taking items to our crime lab for analysis. So things that we're doing to kind of help out our investigators. Our records section, we're going to kind of grab, and this is part of our Department of Justice program, they call it decluttering, I kind of call it refocusing or reimagining some of the duties that our investigators have. And they do a tremendous amount of administrative duties. So we want to free them up. So when there's a crime committed, and that's their area of expertise, that they are out there devoting their time and their energy and efforts to solving that crime. Instead of getting into a system, filling out the paperwork that has to go to the prosecutor's office, so on and so forth. So we're going to have a court services records clerk. We're doubling our records staff from 2 to 4. We had, 2.5 to 4. And these are transfers from other departments that are coming here to the police department that want to be a part of reimagining that. So if there's clerical duties, things that civilians could be doing, we want them to be doing it so we can support our investigators in fighting crime. I know that so far, our pistol records, I was meeting with the ladies today, and I think they're at like 1,396 pistol records that they've processed already here to date, right? Whether that's a pistol sales record or somebody coming in to get a purchase permit. And this is kind of an unfunded mandate. Many years ago, the state law changed where if someone from Escanaba wants to come here to the Dearborn Heights Police Department and get a purchase permit, we have to process that. It used to be you have to go to your home city, right where you live, whoever is designated for that. So they're processing a tremendous amount of pistol records, and I'm very proud of them for that work. And we talked about the refocusing the admin duties and reimagining that. And really one of the challenges is, I come from a family that was in the automotive business, right? Everyone, many hands, had a role in building a car. Imagining it, looking at it, putting it to clay, making the concept, testing it, so on and so forth. Our records staff, our mechanic, Daniel, all those non-uniform staff members are just as important to public safety and service to the community as the police officer that's driving around in the squad car, right? And that's what we're really trying to build here, is that sense of team and that sense of pride in the product at the end of the day. Sure, we could stand up and, yeah, crime's down, UTA's down. We could celebrate those, right? At some point, those will tick up. And we have to have the data that shows us where it's occurring and when it's occurring to get in there and attack that problem. And that starts with our civilian staff as well. Juvenile diversion court, Roger talked on that a little bit. I'm very proud of Roger. I don't think he took enough credit for it. This has been a year-long journey, at least a year-long journey when Roger and I first talked about it. This is a socioeconomic issue. There are many, many other communities who have juvenile diversion programs, right? We need to stop the school to prison pipeline. We need to stop a vicious cycle of learned behavior, of continuing to repeat itself from a juvenile to an adult. A lot of our assault and batteries, our domestic violence are impacting our youth, so they may engage in it. And we're working right now with our schools and Judge Turfy and Prosecutor Worthy, who has a tremendous backlog at the prosecutor's office. These are things where we're not only helping the juvenile justice system as a whole, but we're also helping our parents and our kids to really get kind of pointed in the right direction and find their true focus in what it should be in life instead of engaging in this behavior. So Roger, kudos to you for continuing to push that ball down the court and down the field. I appreciate it. Some of the other things that we're looking at in investigations right now is, let's say that I get arrested for domestic violence in Dearborn Heights. I'm going to sit in jail while police officer writes up the report, completes everything, I get processed. I'm going to sit in that jail cell, and then a detective's going to come in the next day, they're going to grab that case, they're going to look at it, and then they have to fill out all this paperwork in a carpel system to send it down to the state prosecutor. Now, we're looking at issuing violations at the scene, and in case of domestic violence, they still have to come here, but the following morning, arraign them on that domestic violence charge, a misdemeanor charge. Now, if they're doing other things that create, felony issues, then it all has to go to the state. But the majority of these cases are first-time offenders. It's a more immediate impact. Our judges here will have, very quick access to the whole process from beginning to end, and hopefully we'll provide better service to our victims in the domestic violence realm and try to find some resolution a little bit faster. And of course, that will reduce caseload at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office as well. I think that's it. How about some questions?
Well, you mentioned domestic violence. How many domestic violence calls are on your map?
Are on my map?
Yeah, your map, your statistics map up there.
I don't think we
Yeah.
put,
That's something that we could put together with Daniel, where we could have another slide. But we can't really show locations to
Well,
protect the
I'm just
victims.
saying, yeah, what's the person,
A lot,
yeah.
a
so
lot.
domestic violence, stalking, and aggravated assault are our top 3. And those are all relationship-based, right?
Yeah, so.
But that's all neighborhood.
Pilot into your program or not, and if not, then maybe there's some data there that you could look into.
Yeah. We certainly take a look at it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I'm gonna publish it
Well, I'm not
publicly.
saying, I'm
Yeah,
not saying
yeah,
publish it,
yeah,
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
do you have numbers for that or not?
okay,
You know,
all right,
that was just curiosity.
sure.
And then, I asked about the guns, what were legal, what were illegal. What I meant to ask is what are the percentage of those weapons that were CPL carriers or licensed carriers versus non-licensed carriers?
So
If that was in your data or not.
yeah, so I think that from what I've seen in the reports, that's another thing that I need to take a look at. A lot of them are individuals that their CPL is expired, and that's what we've seen, and that was a big issue for Detroit too. So that is definitely making up the majority of them, or individuals that they don't have it on them, and of course that's going to lead to an arrest because they don't have it on. But from what I remember reading, and I do need to take a look at it just so I have accurate data, just to come back to from, it is a lot of individuals that their CPL is expired or they just simply don't have it on them. So that makes up the bulk of our, I think it was 30 arrests from what I've taken a look at and from the reports that I've read so far.
I was just curious, it just, And then you mentioned that you're going to do a distracted driver program along wherever you're going to do it. What about involving the county or the state police in that? To put a crackdown on this?
So
Tell them that the residents have had enough.
yeah, so the month, the month of April is the month where the state police, Wayne County, every single agency will have some type of campaign during that month to enforce distracted driving, violations. So, they're already doing it, right? We have the resources in our city to enforce, distracted driving, right? We have our traffic safety program. We have officers out there every single day looking for violations, and they're finding them. Last night, within the last 24 hours, our guys wrote, I think it was 78 tickets, 77 or 78 violations. That's a lot, right? We also had a bunch of arrests, which is a lot too. But with that being said, our campaign, will be conducted by us, right? The state police, they have, they're busy. They're on the freeways and they're doing, they over in Inkster, and I think they're now at the park. Same thing with Wayne County. They got secondary roads, and they're up and down, our streets every so often, but they're directed to certain areas. So we have the resources in Dearborn Heights to take care of these issues, and we're doing it, and our enforcement is up.
Last time I asked on your traffic stops, how many of your traffic stops ended up with felony arrests? What people with warrants out for their arrest?
So we probably haven't pulled that data. So we're talking about.
Put it in or something, or start researching it.
Yeah, so that we do a lot of traffic stops.
Right.
Right?
Understand.
So the way the data is tracked is it gets logged, the initial call, let's say it gets logged as a traffic stop, right? And then when we make an arrest, it changes to like a warrant arrest or maybe a felony burglary arrest, even though it was a traffic stop.
Right.
So it would be very hard to pull that data from the origination of a traffic stop to how that traffic stop ended, right? Daniel, can you make a note of that and see if that's a possibility? I'm sure you're a whiz, so if it can be done, we can come up with something like that. How many traffic stops turned into arrests?
Yeah.
And I think, if I may, of more interest is found on patrol or dispatched, right? Because we just talked about this in a meeting at 11 today. Getting our dispatch supervisor and some experts from Clemens together for some training on looking at a found on patrol arrest versus a dispatch arrest. Because that's an important thing. I always like to be very proactive out there. For instance, in my first community, if you work 12 Oaks Mall area, you look like a superstar, right? Because you were going up and picking retail fraud suspects up all day in the 90s. Now, I wasn't out there doing my own thing. The stores were calling in saying, hey, we have somebody to pick up. So we want to look at that found on patrol, and I think that that's probably an easier statistic to pull out of Clemens. And you'll have to forgive me because although I was very intimate with the systems, the business objects in Crime View, Dashboard, whatever it was called before, they've completely changed the system, which is why it's so important to have Daniel, who can dedicate his time to the new Clemens system to extract that data.
Chief, I got another request. Okay, two of them actually. One, they want to know if this can be on our Facebook or our city website. You know, the stuff that you guys talked about.
Okay.
And also the other one is if we can put also on social media about the tickets. You know, because of so the tall residents that you guys are doing enforcing.
Okay, so it's my understanding we've had some problems with the microphone, so I'm just going to repeat the information you received from a citizen is, one, can we put this on Facebook or the city's webpage or PD webpage? Absolutely. And I think we'll put the whole presentation in there so the citizens can see where our police officers are out there patrolling and the impact that they're having in the neighborhoods. And that's really what this is about, is getting into those neighborhoods, right? Because one statistic I asked Daniel today to look at was, when I've looked at the crime statistics, I think we have a problem with hit and run accidents. But I want Daniel to take a look at that data and let me know, what does it look like this year versus last year? You know, I don't want to get on my soapbox, but there's a significant difference between marijuana and the THC and how quickly somebody becomes impaired, whether it's an edible or they're smoking it or vaping it, and the amount of alcohol an individual has to drink to be above the limit. So my very 1,000, 50,000 foot view, whatever you want to use, is I'm wondering if we have people who are impaired, because a lot of these accidents are happening in neighborhoods and they're significant. I mean, we had a couple where cars were moved 1 or 2 houses away on a residential street. So we might need to do a little bit more in the campaign on that. But we'll bring that data to our next one to see the hit and run accidents and where they're occurring. Look, somebody could, in a parking lot, the non-traffic stuff, although it's, something that's trackable, I want to know what's happening on our public roadways, versus the parking lots. But those are great questions. Anyone else? Yes.
Familiar question, the racing cars. I just went and got my hair cut last week, went to the hair lofts. He said, Angie, you gotta come look out the front window with me. Donuts in the middle of Warren Avenue in Kingsbury. He said that weekend, it was a dragster on Warren. He's got cameras on his building. My question is to you is, and I know you guys won't do anything with cameras, it's not, but can't you guys kind of use that and kind of figure out who some of these kids are, or
So
teenagers,
Roger, so the question is for the audience, if it didn't get picked up, is we have a significant amount of cars or who are, I shouldn't say significant, but one incident catches the eye, right, of residents. And before you respond, Roger, is what can we do about it with, my question to you will be, what can we do about it as far as the court? If we can secure video, we can identify a license plate and a driver, is that something that you would consider using to issue, let's say, a reckless driving charge?
I know some of the changes now for automated prosecution or Lansing is focused on school buses, like putting it on stop signs and in school zones. Now, obviously, I think we have to figure out another way to do that with the neighbors' complaints. Maybe cameras, but prosecution can be more difficult on it. However, I think drag racing, the laws are changing on it, increasing penalties. So we can set up cars, and we're actually, I'm not gonna discuss some sting operations that we are looking to do in certain areas. And with that, we're focusing on the new changes in the laws. Some of them are changing this June, coming out from Lansing, in terms of how to increase the penalties in the prosecution. And when I was working with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, the forfeiture, and some of the forfeiture laws have changed, are changing, but we want to use some of the forfeiture and of taking the vehicles and increasing the fines on the vehicles.
Thank you, Roger. And Director Swope, I believe you just told me yesterday or today about a community member. First of all, did they call the police, do you know, when it happened?
I don't know if he did or not.
So here's an example of a community member calling the police department, albeit the director. And
Yeah.
Director, can you just kind of share the outcome of
Yeah,
that?
sure. And you know, we take drag racing seriously. I mean, I was just looking up on my work phone here on my email, where we talk about, you know, Ford and Beach Daily, drag racing, driving while license suspended, you know, an arrest, 3 vehicles drag racing, vehicles impounded, right? There's other ones, right? You know, there's several times where our officers have seen drag racers and we're towing their cars. So one thing is, you know, if we get video, we will try and identify a driver. It's super hard because a lot of times people are drag racing, they have tinted windows, and on the video you can't see inside.
Well, and that's another thing.
Yeah.
How are they being allowed to drive with these tinted windows? I mean, that's
Right.
not only for your protection. I have a son who's a police officer. Like you said, one of the worst things you want in a traffic stop is to walk up to a car and you can't see it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of traffic violations out there that we just, you know, if we had 1,000 police officers out on the street right now, we wouldn't be able to pull over everybody who does everything wrong. So some officers, if they like to enforce window tint, that's their thing, they do it, right? If someone likes to enforce, obstructed license plate, you know, they'll do that. But one thing we all enforce is the drag racing, the speeding, that type of stuff. So an example of using video to actually to solve problems is yesterday I got an email from a resident who says, hey, this car every day at 2:30 drops someone off at this house and drives up and down the street at 100 miles per hour and leaves. So in my opinion, they probably leave school, drop their friend off, and drive down the street at 100. Truly might be 100. Well, the video I've seen, it looked like the car was probably going 50, 60 miles per hour. That's a lot. That's horrible. So I immediately notified my Lieutenant Thomas, who does a great job. He's the lieutenant of our patrol division, and he immediately dispatched a car to the area, and that officer found that car. And I got an email today and said, your officer did a great job, and they found the car that was driving up and down my street. So we will take that video and we'll analyze it and try and identify who it is. We will also respond to the area and try and find that car. Even if we can't charge them with the 50, 60 miles per hour. Yesterday we got them on, I think, a stop sign and a failed turn, right? So same thing, right? Whether we get them on a stop sign or failed to turn, they know that we're in the area. So hopefully tomorrow when he drops his friend off, he's thinking twice before he goes 100 miles per hour up the street, right? And there's other examples of us using video to attack issues in areas. That's just one of them, but I would suggest that anybody who has video to please send them in to us, because we don't just ignore them. We look at them, we try and solve them. Sometimes we can't, right? But yesterday's example is proof that we don't just ignore those things, and we really try and solve problems for our residents. And when we do, it's nice to hear back to say, hey, thank you, and you're doing a good job, in our neighborhood. So.
Well, I mean, it's not even summertime yet, and my cameras at nighttime, you could just hear, they're just ripping.
An officer who lives in the city showed me a video of a car cruising down his street, and he's like, can you believe this? And I was like, no, I can't, right? And I think I said it before in a public meeting. I've never seen such crazy driving in a city.
It's not just here.
I mean, no, it's not just here, but Ford Road is especially, there's some issues there, right? And it's our job to try and make sure that these issues are reduced, and, we're really attacking it. You guys may not see it, but, 80 tickets in 24 hours, it's a lot.
Well, and the new thing with people is I leave for work at 4:30 in the morning. The new thing is lights red, stop, no cars are coming, go.
Yeah.
All, everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's really
It's
dangerous.
very dangerous.
Very
Yeah.
dangerous.
You look at the
A lot of them won't
tragedy,
even stop.
look at the tragedy that happened over the weekend, right, in Monroe County. And, man, how heartbreaking is that? So, those are things that our police officers, we're very service-oriented to our community, right? We're missing holidays, kids' birthdays, reunions. We work night shift, which is complete opposite of what, most of our rhythms, circadian rhythms are all about. But we do it because we love our community, we want to serve our community. And I will tell you, everyone from our record staff to our dispatchers, to our police officers, and our leadership team, and our corporation council, we are so focused, and I'm so proud of the service that they're providing to the community. And we really need to kind of change the narrative. It's been 24 months since I've arrived here, okay? We need to start looking at the future. What we're going to do here at the police department, we're going to be like that giraffe. And we're not going to say what we see. We're going to say what we want. And what we want is a data-driven, world-class, community service-oriented police department who also are very concerned about their officers' health and safety. And health and wellness of police officers, it's one of our pillars with the Department of Justice. Roger and Hussein were upstairs when we were having a meeting about the juvenile diversion. One of the things that I talked to the directors today about is I want to track on our overtime slips when our staff members are in court, how many of them are midnight staff? And how long are they in court? Because I'm going to go to Roger and say, hey, why do my midnight, I literally had police officers falling asleep in front of me about a year and a half ago in court. Who wants to fall asleep in front of their boss? And I'm looking, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Let's get these guys out of here, right? That's their health and wellness. That also impacts your tax dollars. And I'll tell you why. Insurance rates. Because you want to look at the significance right now, and one of the most impactful things we can do as a society besides getting moving is getting enough sleep. So we really need to focus on our staff members. And I'll say one more thing, because Vince kind of brought up where things are occurring. We did try to get some vehicle tracking devices on our cars, right, on our patrol cars, because it's a very valuable tool. If somebody says, I haven't seen a police car on my street, in a year, and people are flying up and down it, I'm used to going onto a computer database and saying, look, I appreciate your complaint, let me research it, and I can say, look, we've been on your street X amount of miles, X amount of minutes, or maybe none at all, and you are correct. And we need to have a discussion with some, patrol bosses about that. But this is all what we're trying to do with these data-driven decisions. Some communities put these devices on their plow trucks, so people can see real time as the plow trucks are moving about the community. So we're not going to stop trying to improve. If these things don't get approved, that's all we can do about it. I'm going to worry about what's within my control. But these are some of the great initiatives that we have going on.
Doesn't Ford offer that system built into their cars already?
No, sir,
Yeah.
not as much as we want. As somebody who has actually put this into play and understands the technology and how it's applied,
Yeah.
the thing we had put in for would actually enhance our ability to do that. Right now, we have a basic ability, but what we wanted was an enhanced, because it is 2025 and beyond.
Yeah.
So the ability of us as professionals who understand this vocation, that's why we put in for this technology. Not a fact of, we might kind of know about it. No, we live this job. So,
And we could show, I've used it in previous positions to show what happened in the police vehicle prior to a crash, right? Sure, we have in-car video, we have body-worn camera, but I can look at speed. I can see that, the officer was stopped for 15 seconds at an intersection and then started to go, and then something horrible happened. So it's also a risk mitigation tool. But, so these are things that we're really trying to think about, right? Thinking of that giraffe, looking way down the road for opportunities and threats. And right now, everyone in this room and watching on the audience should be looking into AI in law enforcement. Because I'm worried about my profession getting digitalized. And there always should be that human touch, right? If we can't restore the pride in law enforcement, I'm not just talking about Dearborn Heights, that's our reality right now, that's what we care the most about. But across the country, people don't want to be the police anymore. We need to ask the question, why? And we need to try to fix it. And otherwise, we're gonna have a fleet of drones on our roof,
It's not gonna work.
right? And holograms responding to calls, I don't know, but it will happen. So I feel very strongly, maybe it's just a fear of AI, I think there's a place for it, but I fear it taking over, right, that human interaction piece, because I've pulled people over who just found out their husband filed for divorce. And maybe they were going a couple miles an hour with a speed limit, they're a complete wreck. That's the human side, I'm not writing that person a ticket, right? The counseling that our police officers do with our residents, especially our young adults in the community, all that's a tremendous thing to lose if we can't get this together. So I'm asking for everybody that let's just try to move this department forward, look at what we want, and try to find a way to get there in the sense of technology and service to our community and caring for our employee. Because part of being a giraffe, I stick my neck out for my staff, all of them, whether it's dispatchers or record staff or my mechanic or my directors. And they deserve that from everybody. So if there are no further questions from anyone, I really greatly appreciate your time tonight. Be kind to one another, speak good things about each other, and let's move forward.